The story begins in a large villa nestled deep in the Portuguese forest. A woman named Amelia lives alone, isolated from the outside world. She has twin sons who were recently born. That night, while she was rocking one to sleep in the bedroom and the other in the living room, a couple suddenly broke into the villa and kidnapped the child in the living room. The woman in the group took the child to a car and waited for her accomplice to take the other. Amelia was still confused. Looking out the window, she suddenly noticed a strange car parked at the edge of the forest. Turning around, she saw a man carrying the other child away. Amelia screamed and chased after them. But it was too late. Suddenly, her eyes turned a terrifying white. Outside, the woman waited for a while. But when her accomplices didn't return, Amelia rushed towards them. She quickly drove away alone. As for the kidnapped child, he was later brought to the orphanage's gates. Years passed, and the child had grown into a mature man. Although he had a new life, Edward never stopped searching for information about his family from years ago. On his birthday, Edward's girlfriend, Riley, gave him a special gift, a DNA analyzer capable of finding blood relatives. With just a drop of blood, it could trace with an accuracy rate of up to 99%. Edward tried it and waited for the results. That evening, when he checked his phone, he was shocked to receive a message from the app stating that his DNA matched that of a man named Manuel. The next day, Edward immediately called to verify and learned that Manuel was his twin brother. He said Edward had been kidnapped at birth, and since then, their mother, Amelia, had been unable to accept the truth, hoping he would return home to reunite with his family as soon as possible. His girlfriend, Riley, accompanied him, unaware that this would be a terrifying journey. Along the way, they stopped to ask a woman selling goods by the roadside for directions. Initially, the woman seemed friendly, but when Riley showed her a picture of the villa, her expression immediately changed. Her husband angrily shouted, wanting to chase them away. Riley was confused, but couldn't ask any more questions. After hours of searching through the forest, they finally found the villa. Manuel was waiting outside the house. Edward was overjoyed to be reunited with his long-lost twin brother. Manuel then invited them inside to tour the house. It was meticulously decorated, with furnishings reflecting a long history. As they walked down the hallway, Edward and Riley stopped before a portrait hanging on the wall. It depicted Amelia, strikingly beautiful and possessing an extraordinary aura. However, Manuel explained that their mother was ill and needed rest, so they couldn't see her at that moment. That night, Edward suddenly awoke to find Riley lying beside him. The girl then turned, revealing terrifying white eyes, startling Edward awake, realizing it was just a nightmare. At that moment, Manuel quietly entered, telling his brother to follow him. Edward followed him to Amelia's room. Seeing her in person for the first time, the woman was now old and frail, her face disfigured by cosmetic surgery, a far cry from the beauty in the portrait. Despite this, the reunion deeply moved Edward. Amelia was delighted to see her son, noting that he had grown up and become more mature. The next morning, Edward recounted the previous night's encounter to Riley, advising her to prepare herself mentally before meeting his mother. A little later, while Riley was sitting alone painting, Amelia unexpectedly walked by and struck up a conversation. Initially, the conversation was normal, but the woman's gaze made Riley feel uneasy. She made an excuse to go find Edward and quickly left. That evening, while walking down the hallway, Riley overheard a conversation between Amelia and Manuel. They were speaking Portuguese, so Riley had to use Google Translate to understand. Riley was then extremely confused when she heard Amelia say she couldn't wait any longer to be young again. Suddenly, the woman said someone was eavesdropping outside, causing Riley to panic and return to her room. She recounted everything to Edward and found it puzzling that the mansion had so many empty rooms. Yet Amelia and Manuel were still sleeping together. The next day, Amelia had invited a lawyer to the house to announce her will. According to the will, after her death, all assets, including the mansion and $65 million, would be divided equally between her two sons, Manuel and Edward. This shocked Edward, who couldn't believe his mother would be so fair, even though he had only been there for a day. Under Amelia's pressure, Edward signed the will without hesitation. Meanwhile, Riley tried to call a friend, but the signal was weak, causing the connection to be lost. While exploring the house, Riley discovered an old chest containing a black and white photograph that appeared to be very old. However, upon closer inspection, Riley noticed a strange resemblance between the face in the photo and Manuel and Amelia when they were young. That night, while Riley was sound asleep, she woke up to the sound of a child crying in the hallway. Following the sound, she was surprised to find Amelia standing alone at the end of the hallway. What was particularly striking was that the woman's face wasn't old at all. It was incredibly youthful. Riley approached and opened the door to the woman's room. But suddenly a hand grabbed her, startling her awake. She realized it was just a nightmare. Before she could fully recover, Riley saw Amelia rummaging through her suitcase at the foot of the bed. The woman suddenly turned her face, revealing a pair of glowing white eyes. Riley was terrified and woke up again, realizing she had just experienced a dream within a dream. However, when she looked down at the suitcase, she discovered it was wide open. The next morning, Edward, while wandering in the woods near his house, noticed a small path leading to an old shed. From inside, he heard sounds like a child crying. However, upon entering, Edward was met with the sight of a man crawling on the floor. The sight stunned Edward, and he fainted. Manuel then appeared and took his younger brother back to the mansion, telling Edward to try closing his eyes to calm down. When Edward did as instructed, Manuel's eyes suddenly turned a terrifying white. Fragmented memories of Amelia flashed through Edward's mind, images of her standing around the corpses of newborn fetuses. Edward startled, opening his eyes to find Manuel had transformed into his girlfriend. He explained that it was just an illusion and a special ability they had inherited from their mother. Meanwhile, Riley, in her room searching for information about the mansion, discovered a horrifying truth. The place had once belonged to a Portuguese witch, believed to be able to preserve youth by eating her own children. Worried, Riley told Edward everything, urging him to leave as soon as possible. However, Edward coldly refused, his tone firm as if he had completely sided with his family. Riley realized Edward had been influenced by the people there. She made it clear that whether Edward stayed or not, she would leave alone. The next day, while exercising, Riley accidentally came out onto the main road and encountered the street vendor who had chased her away a few days earlier. The woman, named Vieira, invited Riley to her home and showed her a photograph. In the photo, the man's face is identical to Manuel's. Vieira claims that it's Arthur, and the woman next to him, Fela, is her daughter. According to Vieira, Amelia is actually a witch who has lived for hundreds of years. Whenever her body begins to age, she performs a special ritual, making love with her own son. After becoming pregnant and giving birth, her body automatically rejuvenates. If the child is a boy, Amelia keeps him as a lover. If it's a girl, she eats him to restore her vitality. However, an unusual event occurred when Amelia gave birth to twins, Edward and Manuel, and she had to have sex with both of them for the ritual to be complete. That's also why, after losing Edward, Amelia's body couldn't regenerate and gradually weakened. Vera further revealed that Arthur, the man in the photo, is Edward and Manuel's biological father and Amelia's son. In the past, she had used Arthur to maintain her youth. However, he hated this and didn't want the woman to continue harming innocent children. Arthur then met Fela, and they discussed kidnapping the twins to thwart Amelia's ritual. However, their plan failed. Although Fela managed to get Edward out of the house, Arthur was captured by Amelia. Fela returned a few days later to rescue Arthur but never came back. Vera believed her daughter had been murdered by Amelia. Hearing the story, Riley was shocked but also understood the situation somewhat. She then returned to the mansion and found Edward happily dancing with Amelia and her daughter, as if he had been completely brainwashed by them. Riley rushed to tell Edward to come with her. She wanted to tell him the whole truth about this evil mother. However, when they arrived at Vera's house, it was completely empty. Riley went inside to find a photo of Arthur and Fela to show Edward, claiming that the man in the picture was his father. She then recounted Amelia's dark past, begging Edward to leave before anything bad happened. However, Edward didn't believe Riley and even planned to break up with her because he wanted to stay with his family. Feeling hurt, Riley decided to leave alone. Meanwhile, Amelia secretly prepared a cup of tea laced with a sleeping potion. When Edward arrived, she gave him a cup. After drinking it, Edward felt dizzy and gradually fell asleep. Amelia then appeared in Riley's form, slowly approaching and making love with Edward to complete the ritual of restoring her youthful body. At this moment, Riley, having just opened the shed door to get her car out, noticed a cloth bag nearby. She opened it and was horrified to find Vera's body inside. Before she knew what to do, Manuel was approaching from outside. Realizing he was the culprit, Riley, terrified, grabbed a stick and hid. As soon as the young man appeared, she lunged forward and struck him hard in the stomach. Manuel, enraged, tried to strangle Riley, but during the struggle, she managed to grab a hammer, hit him in the leg, and escape into the nearby basement. While searching, she accidentally discovered a secret room. Inside, a man was locked up, his face horribly disfigured. Riley recognized him as Arthur. the man Amelia had captured years ago. He begged her to untie him. After rescuing the man, Riley continued her search for the mansion. She inadvertently passed Amelia's room and witnessed her performing a dark ritual with Edward. Riley hid in a corner, waiting for Amelia to leave, then ran in to help Edward escape. However, at this moment, Manuel had also returned to the mansion and was approaching them. Riley devised a plan to use Edward as bait, luring the young man closer before launching a surprise attack. She pushed him, causing him to fall from the upper floor and sustain serious injuries. Amelia, enraged at her son's injury, grabbed a knife and lunged at her, intending to kill her. The girl fought back desperately, seemingly on the verge of death, when suddenly Arthur appeared from behind, rushing forward and embracing the woman, giving Riley and Edward a chance to escape. They quickly got into a car and drove away, never to return. Meanwhile, Arthur held Amelia tightly, enduring her repeated knife attacks until he bled to death. At the end of the film, Amelia reappears with a youthful body, as if to prove that the ritual of reincarnation was complete. She gives birth to another child to maintain her eternal youth. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.